Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Emerging Professionals, our latest edition of the virtual learning series. I am Alex Huang. I am the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at APAICS. And if you're new to us, and welcome, I gotta say, if you're returning, thanks for joining us again today. We are a 26-year-old nonpartisan nonprofit, and we're dedicated solely to promoting Asian American and Pacific Islander representation in the political process at all levels. That includes from community service all the way to elected office. And so if you need more information on us, we have a lot of great programming just to get Asian American and Pacific Islanders engaged at all levels and just interested in public service. So check us out at apacs.org for more information on our programming. But a little bit about today and what we're bringing you here today with this webinar is this is the latest installment, like I said, of our Emerging Professionals virtual learning series. And this was kind of a pivot. This is normally part of a series of in-person professional development that we bring to, let's say, like our summer congressional internship cohort. Given the pandemic, we've been able to bring these opportunities online into a larger, broader audience across multiple time zones too. So thank you for joining us for that. This is the latest installment. We've had other panels that have been career exploration panels. We've had more technical webinars, some on resume best practices, and some actually practicing mock interviews for a position in Congress. And so today I'm very excited because this is something that we've brought to our cohorts in person, but now we're able to bring it to you all online, is really an introduction and a discussion about the fundamentals of financial literacy and the value of financial education. And so before I really get into that, though, I just want to say that this series has only been made possible because of the support of a lot of our longtime supporters, including API, who we have Alia on the line to give a few words from API's end. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Alia.
Thank you so much, Alex, and welcome everybody. Really look forward to, participating in this financial literacy. This is specifically very close to my own personal passions, and more than anything, it's always an honor to participate in any of APAC's initiatives, and also being able to support all their leadership series that impact Asian Americans, youth, which is really the youth of the future. I want to really share a little bit, since this is on financial literacy, many people kind of feel sometimes discouraged and say, wow, I'm 25 or I'm 50 or 40, and maybe it's already too late for me to do any financial planning. And I would say that it's never too late. I'll share a little personal quick story about my mother, who only went to second grade of school, and she came to this country making minimum wage, and she found herself a few years ago when she was 50, where my father passed away, and she literally had no financial plan whatsoever. Quickly, with the help of myself, we were able to kind of plan a financial plan for her. And I would say that, she now is retired with quite a bit of home investments, and having a bit of support, financial support, not relying on Social Security and things like that. She did not have a 401k or anything like that, but because of her quick investments that she made, which were not very large. When you make minimum wage in California, it's really, really difficult to kind of make ends meet. And so what I share this story because for my mother, who with a second grade education, whittled with making minimum wage in California, was able to literally quickly at the age of 50 change her course. I think that many of you guys that are really young and aspiring professionals, or professionals and just starting your career, I think there's so many great opportunities ahead for you. And so this is APAC, one very important piece that I think should be really embedded into a lot of kids' education. So I really want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to participate in this and be able to help the youth. And so I'm also on LinkedIn, and obviously, putting a little plug for American Petroleum Institute. Robin Rorick, who is actually our VP of Midstream, sits on the board of APAC. And, we're very fortunate to have him and leading a lot of great initiatives at API. And so I would welcome everybody to go to www.api.org to learn more about career opportunities and within the industry. We represent about 700. We're a national trade association representing all facets of the natural gas and oil industry, which supports about 10.3 million jobs in the US. And so specifically, within the next 10 years, we're looking at about 40% of our workforce retiring. And we would look for folks of people of color, specifically women, and people of diverse backgrounds to be able to represent that workforce. And so we really welcome you guys to check our website, and wish you all the best as well. Thank you, Alex, and everybody else.
Great. Thank you so much, Alia, for sharing that story and also that information. And I think you provided the perfect segue, honestly, into the value of the importance, I'd say, of financial education, which is why I think today's speakers are going to be very important. And I'm glad for everybody who's able to join us. It doesn't matter whether, let's say you are, let's say you're a high schooler to somebody who's mid-career, somebody in your 40s or your 50s. I think there's a lot. And I know just talking with some of our speakers and hearing what they have to say and what they're about to present, that there's a lot that, I wish I'd had maybe a little bit earlier in my life as well, too. And I think that just really speaks to the value of, strong financial education. And so without taking up too much more time, I just want to quickly point out that we have a couple organizations on the line with us today. And first, we're going to start out with AFSA Education Foundation, where we have Rhonda Ashburn and Olivia DiBiase, who are going to be presenting really about what the AFSA Education Foundation do, the work that they do to educate, consumers, and really give them a strong financial education footing. And they're also going to share some great resources. There's really not enough time for us to get wholly into this. And so really encourage you all after and while they're presenting also to drop questions in the chat. There will be some time to ask questions from AFSA. And they're also going to share a lot of resources for you to follow up and continue your learning. And then after AFSA Education Foundation presents, we're going to switch a little bit over to GM Financial. And we have Beverly Fells and Timothy Harrison on the line too from GM Financial. They're actually going to give us a snapshot of the regular program that they bring online, and they're going to do a lesson specifically focused on auto financing today for us. So I think there's a lot to take away from today, a lot of great information, but there's probably going to be even more ways to continue following up with both of these organizations separately together to extend your learning and continue your own journey towards financial literacy. So with that, the last housekeeping tip that I have is that throughout today's session, like I said, there's going to be time for questions for both organizations. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, feel free to add your questions in the comments there too. We have somebody monitoring that who can forward them our way. If you're joining us on Zoom, feel free to use the chat feature to put your questions in there too. And I know when we get to GM Financial's portion, they're also going to be using the interactive chat feature a little bit more. All right. And with that being said, thanks for joining. And I'm going to turn this over to Rhonda and Olivia with AFSA Education Foundation.
Thank you, Alex. That was a nice introduction, and that was inspiring to hear the story. I think that each of us has personal stories. I know I got interested in financial education at a very early age and found that it connected to so many aspects, of my own life. And I encourage those that are watching to see personally how it can help them. I agree. The earlier you start learning and getting engaged in it, the better. And hopefully through today, you'll be able to take this to the next level and, make improvements. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, but of course I'm a little bit partial, but I feel like it's such a valuable skill. And my dream would be that everyone would get financial education early in life. But I know that APAICS cares about this particular topic, and we're happy to be working together with GM Financial to present. Interestingly, AFSA stands for American Financial Services Association. We are the Education Foundation, or a 501c3, similar to APAICS. But AFSA is the trade association. So you, like API and other trade associations, that's a very common thing in the Washington, D.C. area to have those. But I just wanted to share one personal story to get started. So believe it or not, I started to say a million years ago, let's just say several years ago, I was an intern on Capitol Hill. I grew up in Oklahoma, and that turned out to be one of the most instrumental experiences in my life. And I would encourage those of you that are a part of this series, I should say, to look at that and try to have an internship. Maybe it's not on the federal level, but wherever you are at, take advantage of that, whether it's a paid or a volunteer internship, because you'll be surprised at how that can lead to, you know, in my own life, it's been led to a career in the nonprofit world for more than 30 years. So it can be very helpful to you. And you can, of course, get engaged in a topic that you're passionate about, like financial education. But as the executive director of the AFSA Education Foundation, my role is to make sure that we're mission driven and we're looking at making sure consumers of all ages have access to financial education and that they understand personal finance concepts. But I also am excited about the part where they're learning the benefits of that, because I feel like that gives an incentive and it helps people understand that it's, you know, it's both a responsibility, but yet also there's benefits that come from having this knowledge. So I apologize for that phone line there. My husband's supposed to be on duty, bless his heart. But we have a program called Money Skill, and it's online. It was actually, we think, the first program that was started online, and it has evolved with the times. We do provide teacher training and other opportunities like this one today, where we're partnering with other nonprofits, for-profits, organizations that feel this is a topic that people need and that frankly see that there's a benefit from it. We also have lots of educational resources. Feel free to check it out. At the end, we'll give you our website, and my colleague Olivia is going to get into more detail about some of the resources specifically. But let's jump into the next slide. So as far as financial education and its value, you know, years ago, the results were kind of mixed, but fortunately in recent years, we've been able to prove with, you know, other organizations, not just our foundation, we've seen a 50% increase between pre and post test scores of our participants. But overall, there's more and more research, and that's a growing body of knowledge, but you can literally prove that it does work and that financial decision making makes a difference. And part of that's driven by states taking leadership. So those of you who someday want to be in leadership roles, whether it be, you know, as a member of Congress or at the local level, I encourage you today to learn about this topic and advocate for it going forward. And one way that states show that they care is that they incorporate it into their state standards. And on our website, we actually have a map where you can click on your state and you can see all the different areas where there are requirements or where they're connecting standards to particular content areas. Like, for example, my own was family and consumer sciences. The Council for Economic Education, or CEE, actually does a study, and they research this annually to look at the number of states. So most recently, there were 21 states that said that you had to have a personal finance course before you graduated. Interestingly, another nonprofit, the FINRA Education Foundation, FINRA is an acronym for Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. They do a national financial capability study. And in the US, only a third of individuals could answer 4 of 5 basic financial literacy questions on a quiz that they administer. So it shows you how great the need is. And Alex is right. I mean, it's a very complex topic, and you cannot be an expert, you know, in everything. For example, with our curriculum, it ranges from budgeting to investing, and there's all different types of topics in between. So you need to have resources such as the ones that we're discussing today so that you can go back and freshen up and learn more. And you have to study it, frankly, and practice it. So on the next slide, we're going to talk just a little bit about the standards. And as I mentioned, FINRA, their Investor Education Foundation, has done a lot of work, and they actually have one of my favorite studies that, to me, it proves there can be improvements when it comes to your credit score, which is super important, and when it comes to reduced delinquencies. And I'm paraphrasing here, but in their study, what they were able to ascertain is that those states that had more rigorous standards and more robust requirements we're likely to show more improvements in these areas. So this was a big aha moment for those of us that are in this space. And now we have this and other studies that can say, you know, yay, it really does work. And it is good to invest in this and take action in this arena and make sure students and adults have access to resources. It's an opportunity for those of you that are participants today. You can advocate for this, you can promote it. I know we have a toolkit that we provide to AFSA members. GM Financial is one of AFSA's members, and others. There's over 400 across the country. But take advantage of the resources that are out there and tell the story, tell your own stories of how financial education has made a difference. And I think that will help us get the word out more and continue to improve. But as I mentioned, we do have that map, and you can feel free to check that out at your leisure. And then we serve on the Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Financial Literacy Board. We helped start the organization many years ago. And there's an advocacy toolkit at checkyourschool.org. And what the purpose of that site is, you can go in and just check your local school. You know, if you're a college student, check that particular university or college and find out, is your school teaching it? It may be a case where they actually haven't registered their school. So if that's the case, get them signed up. But the main thing is become a part of this effort to help others understand the value of financial education. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my colleague again. She's our Director of Financial Education and Outreach. And Olivia is going to share with you more about our program called Money Skills. So Olivia, take it away.
Thank you, Rhonda. So yeah, as Rhonda mentioned, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about our flagship program, Money Skill. It's an online personal finance course. It was developed in 2002, and at the time, it was one of the first of its kind. And it's a high quality curriculum. It's available completely for free to educators of all kinds. And so this includes parents, nonprofits, education administrators, people who might be volunteering to teach personal finance, and all of that in addition to your traditional school teachers. And the course itself consists of 37 modules or topic areas. They cover a wide breadth of personal finance topics. As Rhonda mentioned, it's everything from the basics like savings and budgeting to more complex topics like investing and insurance. And it really allows educators to fully customize personal finance courses for their students or whoever they're teaching to. It can also be used as a standalone course or alongside other personal finance content as well. Money Skills available in English and Spanish. It's aligned with national and state financial literacy standards. So as we're talking about like state financial literacy standards, it's important for many teachers who do have to teach personal finance or who are interested in teaching personal finance that the content is aligning with the standards that they have to meet. On the next slide here, so just to talk a little bit about who uses Money Skill, but the courses are really adaptable to an array of learning levels and ages. So the content has been designed primarily for high school students, young adult audiences in mind, but we have some modules that can be easily adapted for middle school students, and we also have a lot of content that can be used with adults of all ages, and is currently being used that way now. So as I mentioned earlier, Money Skill, can be used as its own standalone personal finance course, but it can also be built into existing curriculum in a variety of other subjects. So it can be built into career and technical education classes. It can be used in economics or math classes, really wherever personal finance might be taught. And it can be, it can be the whole class, or it can be, used to create homework assignments or class projects. So it's really designed to be flexible and meet the needs of different types of educators. And so lastly, I wanted to cover a little bit about some other free resources that the AFSA Education Foundation offers. So we have a number of other free personal finance resources for students and teachers. That are just widely available on our website. If you visit the resources section of our website, we have digital brochures on a number of topics, including vehicle financing, understanding APR, personal loans, and more. We've also created some supplemental teaching guides to accompany the delivery of money skills. So this includes, curated list of YouTube videos on relevant personal finance topics. More recently, we published a guide that has nearly 400 free digital personal finance activities that align with each money skill topic area. So we really tried to, there's a lot of personal finance content out there. And so rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, we've really tried to pull together some additional resources that help supplement the topics that we're covering in Money Skill. And I'll also just note, for those of you who are interested in learning more about Money Skill and how it works, might be interested in teaching a course at some point or sharing with an educator that I definitely encourage you to check out. We have a free demo that's on our website at www.afsaef.org. So that's kind of the gist of the presentation. But before we move on to Q&A, I wanted to play a brief video. It's from a professor, Tim Mahoney at Southern Indiana University. He's kind of a super money skill user. He's used it extensively over the past few years in his college business courses. And this is just a video to give you a sense of the value of money skill, particularly at the college level, and how it can be integrated into a class. So I'm going to bring up video now. And Rhonda, just nod your head so I know that you can hear it and everybody else can.
We were very fortunate in finding Money Skill. So we started in 2010, the spring of 2010. We had one student to start with. And since that time, we've had over 2,700 students that have taken the course. Money Skill is good for everybody. It's available in English and it's also available in Spanish. It could be good for a person that's a freshman in high school. It could be good for a person that's a senior in college. Well, the credit card is one of them. Identity theft is another one. That's an issue that people are encountering. The idea of vehicles, the idea, do you buy it, if your car's going to break down, what do you do with a broken down car? Do you fix that car, or do you buy something? Do you buy a used car? Do you buy a expensive car? That's a big decision. Oh, I think I've seen several instances of this where students have suddenly said they're suddenly beginning to budget their money. Before that, the money was coming in and they were just spending the money, and they had no idea, no clue at all where the money was going. Well, it could be done in 12 to 15 hours. But we don't want people to do it so fast that they don't get anything from it. A lot of times when you see some of these other courses that are out there, they tend to be 15 weeks in nature, 10 or 15 weeks. Money Skill can be done easily in 5 weeks. I would say that this is time well spent for the student. It's a benefit for them because the students become interested in something. They become engaged in the course. You could start a discussion on just about any topic just like this. Anytime you have a class, you want to get them going on topics that relate to them. Whether it's the cell phone, how many people have got a credit card, how many people are working part-time. Maybe somebody's getting $9 an hour, somebody's getting $15 an hour. So the thing is, you could pull, you might say, one of these modules out anytime you wanted to, just in 15 minutes in a class. So it's almost like a little reservoir of resources right there you could pull out anytime. So this program has actually been brought in and available to the high school teachers in such a way that that material is available to them free. That's a real plus. It's a plus. And the other thing about this is that they're continuing to update the program. And what we do through our affiliation with Money Skill is we've continued to give them suggestions about what they can do to update it, to expand it a little bit. And they're very open to any kind of feedback.
All right, open it up to a Q&A question. I figured I'd leave it on our contact slide here in case you need to copy any of the information down. But I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the questions. And I think, Heejin, you might have some questions coming in from Facebook Live if that's happening. I see one question that's asking if any of the links are going to be provided to attendees, and we're happy to share the links. And I don't know, Alex, if you have a suggested way of getting that out there, but we're happy to share links.
Yeah, that's why I kind of popped my camera back on, but I wanted to say to the audience that yes, we'll be able to follow up from the APAICS side of things with a roundup of the resources, those great ones that you presented, and just really wanted to reemphasize that what's great from the resources that you all provide at AFSA Education Foundation is that it's free and available.
Yeah.
I do want to flag that we have a comment / question from Facebook from Barbara, who says, fascinating, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but she's asking, is this good for, would you say, young adult or someone trying to figure out a major or a career? Can you touch a little bit? I know you guys, this probably was submitted a little bit before the video as well too, but if you guys can just touch on that again about the intended audience and who can benefit from these lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I would say for it's definitely geared towards it's geared toward all ages, but we have primarily high school, young adult users of the content. So people who are just starting out their careers, trying to figure out maybe their education futures, what they're going to do after high school. We even have a module that focuses specifically on student loans, which is one of the more popular modules, particularly with high school students. So I think in that sense, yes, it's a really good resource. It gives lots of real life, practical examples, simulations for students to walk through. So I see another question. So it says, what type of course topics are covered? So to answer that, I'll say there's 37 modules that are covered within Money Skill. I'm not going to list them all off here, but would recommend if you go to our website, www.afsaef.org, we've got a full list. But I will say it covers kind of a wide breadth of personal finance topics. So you've got your basics like budgeting, money management, managing your expenses. It also covers things like credit, savings, and kind of more complex topics like insurance, retirement planning. So there's really a wide array of topics that can meet a variety of different teaching needs and student needs. Okay. Great. So we have one question that came in too that says, for those affected by the pandemic, what are some of the best tips for managing our funds and saving in the event employment becomes affected, and what remedies can we seek to ameliorate economic challenges?
You want me to take that one, Olivia?
Sure, yeah.
You did all the heavy lifting on the others. It's a sad time. So my heart goes out to if any on the call have been affected personally, with your families or with your career. But one of the things that this pandemic has shown and put a spotlight on in the financial education world, we always talk about the importance of having an emergency savings account. And that, sources vary on what the right amount of time is. Typically, you'll see like 6 months to 9 months. Of course, it all depends. Look at how long this particular crisis has gone on. But it is wise to prepare for that when you can and to save so that you do have an emergency fund to go back to for these situations that we might not be aware that are coming down the road. So it can be challenging to do that, especially when you're early in your career and you're just trying to get by month to month. And then for those that are more in service-oriented professions and at lower salary levels, sometimes it's flat not possible. But the thing is, you want to consider that, and if it's possible, try to do that and learn more about that topic, because there are techniques and different resources out there that can help you just take incremental steps to make it better. So that was a little wordy, but hopefully that helps you.
Great. Well, so I'm looking here to see if there's any other questions coming in, and I don't think I see any. I know we're right up on the 30 minutes too, so it might be a perfect time to kind of transition back to Alex and move on to the next topic.
All right. Well, thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Rhonda, again from that, your presentation from AFSA Education Foundation. And like we were mentioning, that there's so many resources that they have. They have their website there, you can see on the slide. And once again, we'll also follow up with everybody who's registered with the organization websites from both AFSA Education Foundation and resources from GM Financial to continue your learning. There's just, so much within this, I feel like we're barely dipping our toes and just starting to talk about the value of financial education. And so with that, if you do have other questions too, throughout the next half of this presentation too, feel free to drop them in the chat or keep the comments coming on Facebook. Like I said, we have a few people watching that as well too. But don't want to take up too much more time from GM. Like I said earlier, we have Beverly Fells, who's going to be presenting one of their courses for our audience as well too. And there's also going to be some engagement pieces through the Zoom chat as well. And I'm going to turn this over to you all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Beverly Fells, and I am with GM Financial. I'm also joined by Tamishini Harrison, who's on my team, and we are very excited to be here with you today to talk about the financial education series on buying your first vehicle. I think, from the standpoint of many young adults will have a car experience as their first major purchase. And so we'd love to provide some information to demystify the process to buying your first vehicle or your second vehicle. I apologize. I believe I had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think I'm back with you. So one of the things that we'd like to accomplish by the end of this session is to give you an opportunity to understand the options when it comes to purchasing or leasing a vehicle and really have clarity around the experience from the sales process at the dealership to really taking delivery of the vehicle. So I'd like to start with a quick question. We have the chat feature available for you to chime in for those of you who are connecting with us on Zoom. We'd love to understand, are you considering purchasing a vehicle in the upcoming year? Chat with us and let us know if you are or if you are not planning on purchasing a vehicle. So it looks like some of you may be in the market. So before you start shopping, it's really important for you to analyze your budget and figure out what you can afford. So the total cost of ownership when it comes to purchasing your first vehicle, there's multiple things to consider. There's fuel, there's insurance, there's even the tires and maintenance to be considered, as well as your sales tax, title, registration, and even ancillary products that you can purchase at the time of the sale. So there's also an important option for you, and that is to lease or to buy. So when you lease a vehicle, you have the freedom to have the new experience more often, versus when you buy, you have the option to really manage a personal preference that you have. Perhaps you'd like to add some special features or touches to your vehicle. Buying might be the choice for you. Also, when it comes to mileage, when you lease a vehicle, you pay for the best miles, really using the vehicle for a limited period of time, whether that is from 1 year up to 2 and potentially 3 years. When you buy a vehicle, you are driving that vehicle without any limits to the number of miles that you can put on that vehicle. Another consideration is that you potentially save money based on what your budget is. So when you lease a vehicle, you're only paying for utilization of that vehicle for that period of time. But when you buy a vehicle, you don't have to worry about any wear and tear because that vehicle is going to be yours forever. Versus when you lease the vehicle, at the end of the 1 to 2 year term, you have to return that vehicle in good condition. And that will save you money as you can move on to perhaps the next model that might be available. So then when you lease a vehicle, you don't have to worry about depreciation. We all know that when you buy a vehicle, that vehicle may not be the same value as when you drive it for 2 to 3 years, it will perhaps depreciate. But on the side of the benefit of buying it, you might build equity depending on the model of the vehicle that you might have in that vehicle. So there are pros and cons to both buying and leasing, but it's really an individual choice that's based on your habits and your personal needs as well as your budget. So let's take a quick chat with each of you and let's talk about which option is best for you. Should you buy or should you lease? So Tamishni is going to help by presenting some options for you in our chat feature, and you will also see those options on the screen. So let's consider scenario A. You have a long commute and you need to go on out-of-city business trips using your personal vehicle quite frequently during the year. Based on the features of buying or leasing, which one do you think would be best for purchaser with scenario A? So for this scenario, it's better for you to lease your vehicle. If you are going on long commutes, that means that you might have extended usage that will increase your mileage. When you're leasing a vehicle, there are lease mileage stipulations that you must drive within a certain allotted mileage for the term of that lease. So leasing would be the best scenario for this example. Let's try it again and go to scenario B. So scenario B is, I go to school in a neighboring state and need a car to get home and back every weekend. Should I buy or should I lease?
Beverly, we have some comments in the chat. We have some people saying buying and some also saying lease.
Thanks for that, Tamishini. I appreciate it. So for this, I see with both of those scenarios, I'm going to key in on you go to school in a neighboring state and you need a car to get home and to go back to the university. So is this a scenario where you might have increased miles, or do you think that that would be limited mileage? So for this one, the answer is buy. The reason is buy is that you will likely put on the miles on a frequent trip. So leasing, again, you might have extended miles on this one. So buying is the best option for you. Let's go to scenario C. Scenario C is, I live down the street from my workplace and my grocery store, all within walking distance from me. Is leasing the best option, or is buying the best option for you?
We have a couple of lease comments, and we have one buy as an option.
So for this scenario, we think that leasing might be the best option for you because you live so close to your work and to the other personal conveniences that you need that you might have limited mileage usage. Therefore, leasing might be a really good option for you to explore. You guys are getting really good at this. So let's look at scenario D. I want to paint my car and customize the interior and purchase special wheels and tires. Is this an option for a lease customer or for a customer who wants to purchase their vehicle?
So far, our comments are all buy.
All right. I absolutely think that you guys are getting the hang of this. You are correct. If you'd like to customize your vehicle, absolutely, buying is the best option for you. So I believe that we're on our last scenario. I like new cars and I want to drive a new and different vehicle every couple of years. Is this a scenario where leasing might be best, or would buying be best for you if you like a new vehicle every couple of years?
So it looks like we're all in sync on this one. All of our answers say lease.
All right, that is absolutely the best scenario is for a lease in this case. When you lease, you're able to exchange your vehicle, if you desire, every few years and get the latest and greatest. When you buy, you're committed to paying that vehicle off until you are completed with that term if you choose to finance it. So again, for this scenario, leasing is a really solid option. So now let's talk about how to prepare before you get to the dealership. For many of you, if you have purchased a vehicle in the past or you know someone who has, the dealership experience is a very important part of selecting and purchasing that vehicle. So it's really important to get pre-qualified through an online credit application. This allows you to really understand what you're able to buy and what you're able to secure before you ever walk into the dealership. Also, it's important to have a down payment in mind and available to you. That might be something that will be important to the purchasing decision, as it will also impact the total amount that you finance or the total amount for your lease based on what you're able to put down. Many times, auto finance companies and manufacturers will have rebates or cash assistance, but down payment absolutely can be a benefit. Also have your license, insurance on hand, and proof of income and residence. Many times as a new buyer or a first-time buyer, this bit of information will help make a smooth process for getting your loan approved if you are to choose to finance or to lease your vehicle. Be open to different vehicle models and different trim packages, because this will help you fit your financial budget and situation. Many a times, if you think about the perfect vehicle that you have in mind, you might want and have your favorite vehicle color is black, or it might be a shiny red vehicle. But when you get to the dealership, for your budget, they may only have a vehicle of that same make and model, but it might be in a different color, or you might want a sunroof, and that trim package may increase your price. So you have to be flexible when you're purchasing and making a major purchase such as a car, because flexibility will allow you to make sure that your financial situation and budget remains intact. So, what to expect when you actually are at the dealership? Again, we'll take you through that. But before we do it, I want to see that you guys engage with us again. And of course, we're going to do that via the chat feature. I've got another activity for us to go through. As you think about what you've heard today, let's think about the entire process on considering to buy a vehicle. So here you have some very important steps. And we have the steps listed. They're not in order, but we have them identified with a letter in the right-hand corner. I want you to consider what is the appropriate order that you should take in the car buying process. 1, we have test drive, identify the total cost, talk to a salesperson. We have identify your needs and wants. We have prepare for your vehicle, prepare for your dealership visit. Then we have assess the vehicle, analyze your budget, consider purchase options, and then sign the paperwork. We think that there's an opportunity to put these in a different order. We'd like your help. So please look at the different steps and tell us which steps should come first and put them in sequential order. We'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so let's check it out and see what you put, and let's see what the best answer. Commissioning?
So it looks like we haven't had any answers come through just yet. Oh, there's one. So we have someone who said G, H, B, D, A, and then F. It looks really close.
Do we have anyone else who wants to submit a response? Okay, let's give it a try. We think the first step is analyze your budget. The second step is identify the total cost of ownership. That's the insurance, tax, title, wheels, gas, maintenance. Those are the things that make up the total cost of ownership. The next step is determine your wants and needs. Identify the features that are essential versus the ones that are desired. Knowing this up front will help you prioritize, because when you get to the dealership, there's so many options and so many vehicles to choose from. Having a clear understanding of what you want and what you need is very important in that process. The next step is consider your purchase options. Buying and leasing are both great options. You can't go wrong with either of those options. You should decide on what works best for you based on your personal situation. Consider your driving habits. Consider if you desire to customize your vehicle, or if you prefer to have new vehicles more frequently, or the length of your loan. Those are all important considerations to make. Next, you should prepare for your dealership visit. Get pre-qualified, understand your down payment, and then also have the paperwork that we suggested. Make sure you have your driver's license and make sure you've already called your insurance company to get a quote on that and have that paperwork available so that you can drive off the lot if all of the steps are completed to your satisfaction. The next step is test drive. It's important to test drive the vehicle to assess your level of comfort and really if the vehicle meets your needs. So are there any features that you think are must-haves, and are those features easy to use? Is the vehicle comfortable, and is it large or small enough for your needs? Whether you live in an apartment or a home, your garage and parking conditions or parking fees are also considerations. So a test drive is an important part of the vehicle process. Okay, assess the vehicle. If the vehicle is pre-owned, meaning if you're buying a used vehicle, do you have the vehicle history? Is that vehicle safe for you? And are there any red flags, sounds, or defects or challenges that were discovered during that test drive? Also, talk with your salesperson. Take time to understand the details of the purchase before you make the final decision. What is the total price? That is a very important aspect. And does it have a warranty and what's covered? There's so many important aspects to talking with your salesperson and getting all of your questions answered. And it may be a helpful tip to have those questions outlined well before you even arrive at the dealership. And then next, you sign the paperwork. If you and the dealership agree to your purchase or lease price and you meet the financing requirements, you'll spend time with what is called a finance and insurance manager at the dealership. And they'll review all of the paperwork details with you, along with the financing and product offering, to go over all of the accounting and financing details. And then next, you take the keys and you enjoy your new vehicle. Those are the steps that we recommend as a part of the car buying process. So next, it's time to take a test drive. So let's talk about and dig in just a little bit deeper on aspects of that test drive. Again, do you feel safe driving the vehicle? That's a really important feature of what that driving experience will look like. And then next, is it comfortable to you? Are you able to navigate in and out of the vehicle with comfort? Do you have a family, and will your family be able to do the same? Are all the features easy to use and easy to navigate and find? Does it have enough capacity to fit your needs? Do you have a large or small family? And consider those requirements as well. And then, does it have any deal breakers? Are there things that are part of this vehicle that was presented to you by the salesperson that you absolutely don't feel that should be a part of the vehicle, considering, again, your must-haves versus your nice-to-haves? Next, it's an important question for you to ask before you decide. What is the total price? That is a very important question, and these are the ones that I recommend that you have outlined before you ever go to the dealership. This is very important. The sales price is different than the total price, and that is a very important question to discover before you decide to finance or lease your next vehicle. If you're buying used, are there any red flags? Are there repairs or things that would need to be done to the vehicle? And what does a warranty cover? New vehicles typically have comprehensive warranties, but if you're deciding to buy a pre-owned vehicle, it is very important to understand what will be covered in that warranty. And are there any incentives or discounts? Many manufacturers like General Motors, our parent company, will offer incentives and discounts to consumers that will assist with the purchase towards a new vehicle. It could come in the form of an APR or a low rate, or it could come in the combination of cash assistance that could be used towards the down payment. And then how flexible are you? Is it important that you have every single thing that's on your list of must-haves, or are you flexible on things such as color? So the last stop is the F&I department, and that's the finance and insurance manager. After you complete the process with the salesperson, you will be spending time with what is considered the F&I manager. And this part is just as critical as spending the time with the salesperson and that test drive. And here's why. So in the F&I department, you will be presented with the option of an extended warranty. Again, if you're purchasing a new vehicle, the manufacturer will give you a basic warranty for that vehicle. An extended warranty gives you additional features of coverage that may be of interest to you to consider at the time of purchase. GAP, this is guaranteed asset protection. When you purchase a vehicle for a certain dollar amount, the vehicle may depreciate. And if that vehicle depreciates, and if you are in an accident, what is called GAP will cover the difference between what the vehicle evaluation is and the payoff of that vehicle. That is considered GAP insurance. It covers any differences in the depreciation. Other considerations that will be presented to you will be tire and wheel protection as well. All of these are options that will be presented to you and are not required for the purchase of your vehicle. And then next, there is other lease protection for you. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, when you lease your vehicle, you have to return your vehicle in the exact same condition as it was when you first drove it off the lot. So lease protection may give you some added security to reduce any out-of-pocket expenses for minor repairs that would not be covered by your insurance. So I've taken you through a lot of information on the car buying process, and I know that many of you may have questions, but you can always engage with us beyond today through our keys at GM Financial by sending us a question, or you can find us on Twitter and LinkedIn and our Keys Online modules that also can be found on gmfinancial.everfinext.net. So with that, I have a few minutes before we conclude, and I'd love to hear if you have any questions or would like to engage with us before we turn it back over to Alex.
Beverly, I see that we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A section.
Sure.
The first question I see is, what is GM's strategy for educating young folks on other aspects of financial literacy?
So thank you for asking that question. GM Financial is committed to our community and the customers that we serve. And so to Missiony and I, our sole role and responsibility is really around not only our employee engagement, but our community engagement. And so our role is to advance our Keys financial literacy platform in the community. We take our virtual learnings to our community through request and also through different partnerships and ventures that we have throughout the U.S. So we are committed to that financial literacy, and GM Financial's commitment to the community is to staff a full department related to advancing our financial literacy program. So thank you so much for asking. I always say that Tamisha and I have the best job in the company. We get a chance to come to work and help our community and help others in the community learn about financial education.
Absolutely. It looks like we have another question. This question is, do these same rules apply when it comes to buying a home?
I believe that they're uniquely different. And so we do have on our EverFi platform, and I believe there are some other money skills that were presented to you earlier that would be a great resource for evaluating the home buying process.
We have another question. Does GM have any other lessons available?
Absolutely. We have live lessons that Tamishini and I, along with our entire team, we have a team of 4 that support our financial literacy. And so if there is interest for us to come out and engage with you, feel free to email us or to find us on one of our social links. And then we also have our EverFi content, which is our online module, and that is also available, that will also pass over to Alex and that he will make available to all of the participants on this call.
Great. We have one other question. Are there other financial considerations we should keep in mind after we have already purchased the car?
So if you've already purchased your car, I would say the important thing is to make your payments on time. All of those things impact your credit score. And I know we didn't really talk about credit score as a part of the car buying process. We talked about the pre-approval, and the pre-approval is based on your credit score. And so building your credit as a young adult is extremely important, and you should be very protective of it. One way to build your credit is to make your installment payments on time. And if you have any challenges with making your payment on time, you should always reach out to your lender to communicate with them, because many lenders have resources available to support team members.
That concludes the questions.
So I know that we are running, and I've taken a little bit of extra time, and so I want to be very respectful of your time investment and turn things back over to Alex. And again, thank you so much for allowing us to spend time with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Beverly and Tamishini from GM Financial for that. I know I learned a couple new things too. And you really got me thinking now. I don't currently have a car, but I've been thinking about getting one in the next couple of years too. So thank you for that. And just want to thank everybody who joined us today for this latest installment of the Emerging Professionals Virtual Learning Series. Whether you're new to APAICS or you've been engaging with us for a long time, we have a ton of different programming, especially for Asian American Pacific Islanders if you want to get engaged in public service, congressional work. If you want to run for office, check us out at apaics.org. There's always something happening and always an opportunity to get involved. And of course, I want to thank all of the speakers today. We have Beverly, we have Tamishini from GM Financial, we have Rhonda and Olivia from AFSA Education Foundation. And of course, we have Alia, who represented API here today. To all of our speakers, just thanks for taking the time out of your day to speak to our audience a little bit. And again, for our attendees who joined us, and because this is being recorded and will be a living resource as well too, we'll make sure for everyone who registered and attended that you can get the follow-up information. You guys got a snapshot of the KEYS program provided by GM Financial and AFSA Education Foundation. You guys talked about your long-running money skill program, which is available to both students and educators broadly to use free of charge as well too. So I encourage everybody to look them up. Both of these organizations have incredible resources. You guys are doing great work that is needed, maybe now more than ever. And just lastly, stay tuned to what's going on at APAICS. The next installment in this series will be in November. Be on the lookout, sign up for our listserv. We're going to have a panel talking with former, current, and senior Asian American Pacific Islander staffers in the political arena who worked on campaigns or worked for congressional leadership offices. So that'll be our next career exploration panel coming up in November. But just once again, thanks for everybody for joining us for this latest installment of our Emerging Professionals series, especially on financial literacy and the value of financial education. And thank you all again for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.